We tend to be good at kind of loving, being forgiving to our neighbors, to our friends and family, but it's so difficult to do to ourselves. Why would we treat ourselves so much worse than we would somebody that we love in our lives? It doesn't make any sense. And we do it to them because we know that's what will motivate them, what will bring them back on, keep them resilient, keep them kind of thriving. That's what we need to do for ourselves as well.
Hello, guys. Welcome to Keep On Pushing Stories. This is where we share real life stories of inspiration, persistence, perseverance, right? We take a deep dive into the mindset and the lives of people who have pushed past their limits and overcome obstacles. And, today I'm so excited to welcome my friend Laurence Halsted to the program. Laurence, welcome to Keep On Pushing, my friend.
Thank you, Devon. Great to be here.
Yeah. Thank you for taking the time. We usually start, Laurence, by just asking people, what it is that they do. How do they bring value? How do they serve others? So please share that with us.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I have a couple of parts of my life, but in my professional part, I'm a coach and a consultant. So I operate under this banner of compassionate performance. So it's this understanding that there's got to be great challenge, but also great support in order to get the best out of people. So that's what I call compassionate performance. So I do that in kind of a professional sense in businesses, in academia, wherever people need help. But I also help kind of run a charity, a sports charity, where we work for a more compassionate culture of sport. I run mentoring programs. I create programs to help athletes, to help coaches kind of thrive and get the most out of themselves in their lives as well as in their sporting careers.
Mm. Compassionate performance. I have to admit, it's a new term to me, but it definitely sounds like something that is needed. I can see that right off the top. So, Laurence, if someone wanted to connect with you to benefit from your programs, how would they do that?
Well, personally, I have a website, laurencehalsted.com, or I'm on LinkedIn, easy enough to find there. And then this charity, an amazing charity, so it's called the True Athlete Project. So the trueathleteproject.org. If you're interested, if you're working in sport, you're an athlete or a coach, check that out as well.
All right, awesome. So now we know where to find you. So we're going to get down to what I call the crux of the matter, Laurence. We would really love to hear your keep on pushing story, a time when you had to push past your limits, overcome some obstacles, step out of your comfort zone to get to the next level to achieve. So please do share that with us.
Thanks, Devon. Lovely to have this space to share probably the most meaningful, profound part of my life, as often these stories are, right? And this is definitely also the origin story of compassionate performance. I would not be living the life I do now without this period of my life. So I'm going to take you back to 2012. It's it's the Olympic year. I'm a fencer in the British team. I've been a professional fencer for 5 years by that time. I'm from London, so we've been preparing for the London Olympics for those 5, 6 years, just all out focus, nothing else. All of our funding was for that. The city was kind of transforming itself into this Olympic city. It takes an incredible amount of time for you think about it, working so laser focused for this one event over 5, 6 years. It just takes forever to come, right? And then 2012 comes around, January, the first training session of the year, when the Olympics are just up ahead now, it's on the horizon. First training session of the year, I trip up on the piece, just having a sparring fight, put my hand down to stop myself, and I break break the bone on my wrist on my sword arm. Just one of the little bones. But my God, that changed everything. My entire world went dark after that. So I had 4 months where I couldn't pick up a sword to train, January till May. I had two surgeries, one where I had to put a little like wire up the wrist and screw up that bone, and then another surgery later to pull out the wires. I had it kind of in a cast. I could turn up and do physical training, but my sword arm what I rely on in my sport, was slowly kind of withering away. I couldn't even use it. So this was, yeah, the darkest period of my entire career, without a doubt, and probably of my life as well. And I was really struggling. I was not in a good place mentally. I was not a nice person to be around. Just showing up every day to do this physical training. Luckily, I had an amazing physical trainer who would work with me every day. But I was watching my teammates training there, getting better, aiming headfirst towards the Olympics, and I had no idea if I was going to get back to even any kind of fencing level, let alone Olympic level to be selected in the team. And up until that point, I'd been a shoo-in. I'd been number one or two in the country for the last 10 years. So I got to this point where suddenly my Olympic dream was just completely up in the air, in the balance. And it was, yeah, it was tough to be around me, tough to be me for that time. But luckily my performance director noticed that like I needed some help here. I wasn't handling it very well. And she got me together with an amazing sports psychologist. So this is the first time we'd had offers for sports psychology before, but this was the first time that I really connected with somebody. First, I was in a dark place, but she was also amazing. And we started work. We started work on my values to start with. Like, what kind of athlete did I want to be? What kind of teammate? What kind of person did I want to be? And then we use those descriptions, kind of holding up as a mirror, like, how was I doing day by day? How was I? Because I was not a good teammate at that time,
Mhm.
full of resentment, full of fear, like really bitter towards these guys who are my teammates, but I saw them getting what I wanted to do. And then part of that as well was this recognition of my general approach to performance up until that point. The entire way through my career, I was in my late 20s by then, very self-critical. This is what we know athletes have, very self-critical mindset, really beating ourselves up, hard on ourselves if we make mistakes, if we fail, if I lost in competitions, really, really took it to heart. And to the point of kind of tears after bad losses, even into my 20s, like crying after losing competitions. And I remember one of the things she said to me, it was just a simple thing, and it will sound like it's super simple, but it just she almost changed everything for me overnight. She said, Laurence, you know, you don't have to be devastated if you lose. And I looked at her at that moment. I was like, yeah, what are you talking about, crazy woman? Of course you have to be devastated when you lose. That's the point. Feels amazing to win. It feels awful to lose. That's why you do what you need to do to not lose. But so quickly, and maybe within a few days or in a week, I realized that message sunk in, and we'd been working on my values of like your game plan. Like if you show up to your best, you're trying to do your best, you're sticking to your values the best you can. It doesn't actually make sense to beat yourself up, to be super harsh on yourself if you lose, if you make mistakes. Like that's sport, right? That's part and parcel of being human. So these kind of these this messages, we were working together for like 4 or 5 months, not a huge amount of time, but totally kind of transformed my understanding of myself, my performance mindset. And I ended up getting selected for that Olympic team. May was when I got the cast off. I had a month and a half to come back. Managed to get selected, but not for the individual event, which was like my big dream. We have in fencing, you have an individual and a team event. I got selected as the kind of reserve, as the substitute for the team event, but I got selected. It was not what I'd hoped, and that was another struggle to get over. Like I got selected, but not the way I really wanted. I was never going to win, stand alone on the top of the Olympic podium. So I still had some work to do. But then by the time I got to the Olympics, by the time I got up on that piste, ended up being probably the single highlight of my entire career was walking onto the Olympic piste just to start my match. I had like 50 to 100 of my friends and family filling out this packed arena in London. And the reason was I was most proud. I was proud of how I performed that day. I actually performed really well, but I was much more proud about the kind of person and teammate and athlete I had managed to kind of drag myself up to be through those months from the darkest phase of my career to that place where I could actually be proud of the person that I was standing on that piece. And that was the first part. This was the first kind of revelation for me. As we know, times of crisis can be times of great revelation. And this was the first part was this recognition that all those people after I competed, finished the day, we did pretty well. We didn't win a medal in the team, I went out and spent the rest of the afternoon with my friends and family. And this recognition that they didn't care one bit whether I won or lost or was Olympic champion or not, they would love me just the same. And actually, that kind of what I loved about myself and what my people loved about me was never going to change based on how well I was doing in fencing, in life, whatever it is. And that's an amazing place to kind of build your sense of self-worth from, this foundation of love and acceptance of yourself and of others. And then the other part of this was this message about not beating yourself up, because I used to really, I would suffer after events, and that would come in during the performance as well. So I'd be nervous as hell. If I started losing, like, the anxiety would grow. There'd be this cloud hanging over me. And so for my second Olympic cycle, all of that was gone. None, I had none of that. Like, I would get over bad losses in 10 minutes flat. That was it. Because I brought in this more, now I come to understand it, more compassionate approach, more self-compassionate approach. Like, I was going to try my best. I was living by my values. And that's what allowed me to let go if I lost, if I made mistakes, if I didn't live up to what I was my expectations. And that allowed that in itself, the fact that I didn't have this cloud emotional backlash coming after a match allowed me to just be focused in the moment, to perform with absolute kind of pure focus. What do I need to do? And that's exactly where we want to be as athletes, is totally focused, not on what could happen, not on how awful it would be or what's gone before, but on what am I doing right now? And I had the last part of this story, actually, it comes in the second Olympics in Rio. This time I got selected for the individual and the team event. I'd had the best period of my entire career, most consistent performances, the best experiences because of this new approach. My first match of the tournament was against a good Chinese fencer. We were pretty evenly matched. This is my Olympic debut in the individual event, remember, and I went 8-0 down in a match to 15. So this is looking like a complete whitewash, right? 8-0, and I'm on the biggest stage of my entire career. Old Laurence from about 5 years ago would have been totally like a complete mess of nerves and anxiety based on how humiliating this is. What if I lose 15-0? Like, this is the worst. Like, it would have been the worst position, the worst place to be in would have been me right then. And what I actually felt was none of that. All I felt in that moment was this fierce determination to figure out, what do I need to do now? How do I win this? What do I need to do to stop this and come back into it? And that juxtaposition, that switch from how I felt in that moment versus how I felt in any of my other times before when I was losing, it just showed me the power of this compassionate approach to performance. And I caught right back up to him. I got up to almost level. He pulled away at the end and he won the match. So it doesn't have the Hollywood ending, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it had everything I needed. Was the power of the experience of being in that match and how focused and present I was versus the rest of my earlier career where it would have been a ball of nerves. And that was purely down to this values, compassionate approach. And it's given, like I say, it was the origin story to everything I do now. It showed me how this is where the power of performance really is in forgiving the humanity of performance, recognizing that, living by your values. That's where the power is.
Man, bro, there's so much to unpack here, unpack. You talk about compassionate performance, and off the top, one could think of it in terms of you having compassion, seeing the humanity in your competitor. But if you think about life in general, we are our biggest competitors. And perhaps that's exactly where the compassion needs to start. And that's what I'm hearing with you as well. And I kind of chuckle to myself, when you said that the therapist told you that winning isn't devastating. Like, what does she mean? Winning isn't devastating, right? You put so much effort into not losing, as you say, that winning for most athletes is devastating. Whether you are trying to compete in the Olympics or you're a corporate athlete, right? All of us are competing in one way or another. And so, you talking about the being critical, which, again, I kind of chuckle because I know exactly where you're coming from. It's so important. Let's talk a little bit more about that, Laurence. This idea that we, in our most difficult times, we need to be kind to ourselves and not beat ourselves up.
Yeah, and the thing is, we as athletes, as I did, we think that that critical voice is the motivator. That's what we need. That's our edge. That's what
Hmm.
keeps us there. That's what I thought for 20 odd years until I realized it's the difference between this fear-based motivation, which is what that critical voice is. It represents the fear of losing, is powerful. It's the dark side, right? There's power in
Yeah.
the dark side, but there's the love on the other side, the love-based motivation, which is I'm doing this because I love what I'm doing, because I love giving my best, I love giving living by my values, and it's even more powerful. We just going back to your point about that self-compassion, we did is starting there. We tend to be good at kind of loving, being forgiving to our neighbors, to our friends and family, but it's so difficult to do to ourselves. Why would we treat ourselves so much worse than we would somebody that we love in our lives? It doesn't make any sense. And we do it to them because we know that's what will motivate them, what will bring them back on, keep them resilient, keep them kind of thriving. That's what we need to do for ourselves as well.
Yes, yes. That's it's it's something I talk about all the time as well, because you're right. We push ourselves hard and we berate and belittle ourselves when we fall short, because in our minds that will motivate us. And interestingly enough, we probably would not accept that kind of talk from someone else to us,
Mm.
but we do it ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned, as we're, this redefinition of winning. If we can get off the thinking that yes, winning means being atop of the podium, whether at the Olympic Games or on the sales leadership board, to hey, am I enjoying the process? Am I, really putting my all? And then when times get tough, when I'm 8-0 down in the match, can I find the strength to make it a match? Kind of stuff. And you definitely demonstrated that in Rio.
And this is the beauty of what it connects to what we all know in sport is that you can have goals, whatever your goals are of results, that doesn't matter. You need to focus on the process. All your focus has to be on what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? And actually focusing on your values, living up to your values, fulfilling your game plan. If you can do that, then the goals will just take care of themselves. And that has to be your metric of success. How good am I at giving my best? How close to my best effort and attitude can I give in any moment? That's got to be your measure of success. And that's what I finally got to in
Hmm.
Rio was I can be proud of myself because I stuck to my values and I played out my game plan as best I could. I still lost, but I can't look back at that as anything other than as a success.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's led, I mean, it truly is a success. It's really that process has led me to everything I consider so valuable in my life today.
Again, redefining winning. So here
Mm.
you are, really on top of your world, heading into London, and something that is completely beyond your control happen, and you break bones, not just in your wrist but in your sword wrist. And
Mm.
it's something that happens to all of us. Similar things happen to all of us where things are going well and something completely beyond out of our control happens. And in terms of personal responsibility, in terms of resilience, I always talk about this idea of personal responsibility. And it
Mm.
sounds like the therapist help you to get there, to get you to focus on your values, as you say, to take responsibility for the one thing you can really take control of is how you respond to this tragedy, this unfortunate incident. Talk a little bit about that, how and starting to look on your values, how that really got you to shift your thinking and your attitude, in terms of like, I'm going to take ownership of this process moving forward.
Yeah, it's such a lovely lens to look at it from, because certainly that period before I met the psychologist, I was just in like self-pity mode, right? Resentment and bitterness, and like the world has done this to me. Why me? Why now? It was my first major injury in Olympic year. It was like full of self-pity. There's no ownership, there's no responsibility in that. And she showed me that yeah, you can't fix your wrist suddenly. You can't do that. But what can you do? You can respond in the way that you want. So what's the response that you want? What kind of person do you want to be? What kind of teammate do you want to be every day in training? And that values process was so had never done it before. It was tough work to look in and think, well, what do I care about myself? What do I like about myself? Who do I want to be? And it was so powerful that I do that in almost all of my coaching work now. I start with this values piece, and it's just an amazing foundation to start from. It's an awareness raising. It prioritizes, it focuses, and it also brings responsibility. I have a responsibility. This is what I value. Now my responsibility is to go out every day and try and live up to it. And what a place to live from. And it drew me, as it did, it dragged me out of this dark place to somewhere I could be truly proud of. It showed me that that is a process that anybody can benefit from.
Yeah. And Laurence, when we're thinking about winning, whether we're an athlete or a student or a salesperson, an exec, right? And you want to win for yourself, and that's why you push yourself so hard. But you also want to win for others. You want to win for your country. If you're an Olympic athlete, then you definitely want to win for your family and your friends. And we tend to feel like if we don't hit that mark, the podium, we have lost, of course, because we have invested so much in it personally, but we have also disappointed. We have let down our country and our family and our friends. And you're telling me that you got to the Olympics, which was, in fact, in itself a huge win in London after being out for so many months, and you did not win on the piece, but your family loved you anyway. And your friends loved you. They were excited and proud for you. And that is, um, I think, something that all of us, whichever area of life we are in, we need to take into account as well.
Mm. Yeah, and people don't tend to get such a clear example of failing to reach your dreams, yet having been surrounded by your friends and family, showing how proud and happy they are for you, as
Yeah.
I did that day. It was such a special day. But it's the same. It goes the same for everyone. If you go and ask your loved ones, your friends, what did you think about me not getting that promotion or not hitting my sales targets? They'll be like, what are you talking about? I like that you make jokes and you're funny, and we've got this history. Like, of course, it's nothing to do. Like, your performance day to day has nothing to do with why these people love you. But
Yeah.
we don't internalize that. We think that we rise and fall in people's eyes far more than we actually do. Mm.
That is so true. Bro, what an amazing, inspiring story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. You on top of your game, and something unfortunate, tragic really happened, but how you were able to take responsibility for that by, as you mentioned, focusing on your values and hence becoming a better person, which allowed you to become a better teammate, and then just kind of riding that wave into, um, let's say, the hearts and minds of the world, your family and friends, of course, and being able to now tell this amazing story and being this powerful example of, wow, what compassionate performance is. Truly epitomizes the keep on pushing philosophy. Laurence, thank you so much again for sharing with us.
Well, thank you so much, Devon, for giving me the chance to. It's been a
Indeed.
pleasure.
And so, guys, if you enjoyed this, if you found value in it, please share this with someone else. And don't forget to like us. And of course, you know what you need to do as well, right? Keep on pushing.